Hey everyone, and welcome. If you're a digital sculptor, you know that feeling, that moment when lag hits right in the middle of a perfect brushstroke, or your whole project just crashes. Well, today, we're gonna build the perfect machine for ZBrush. We're gonna make sure you avoid all that frustration and, more importantly, stop you from wasting a ton of money on parts you just don't need.
So let's just get right to it. The biggest question everybody has. You're a 3D artist, so of course you need the biggest, baddest, most expensive graphics card on the market, right? I mean, that's what you need for pretty much every other 3D program out there.
Well, what if I told you that for ZBrush, that idea is not just wrong, it's completely backwards? Following that advice is the fastest way to build a super expensive computer that actually performs worse for sculpting. You see, the normal rules of 3D just don't apply here, and knowing why is the secret to building a dream machine.
And that brings us right to our first topic, the ZBrush GPU myth. We are going to tackle this thing head-on. Because honestly, understanding this is the single most important thing you need to know before you spend even $1 on a new PC.
See, ZBrush is different. It's always been the rebel of the 3D world. While all the other programs were chasing fancy rendering and relying on the GPU, ZBrush's creators were obsessed with just one thing, making the sculpting experience feel absolutely seamless, even with millions and millions of polygons. Its whole DNA is just built differently. So let's pull back the curtain a little bit. Let's see how this incredible piece of software is actually using your computer's hardware. Because once you get this, you'll know exactly where to put your money for the biggest performance boost.
And here it is. This is the secret sauce. ZBrush's engine doesn't really care that much about your graphics card for sculpting. Instead, it takes your entire sculpture, all those millions of polygons, and loads it directly into your computer's main system memory, your RAM. Then every single brushstroke you make, every move, every smooth, that's all calculated by your CPU.
So let's break it down real simple. You want to work with super high poly models? Forget the GPU. You need more RAM. You want your brushes to feel instant, fluid, and responsive? You need a faster CPU. You're sick of that little freeze every time you save? That's your storage speed. And the GPU? Yeah, it helps. It puts the image on your screen, but it is not the star of the show here, not by a long shot.
So if the GPU isn't our hero, what is? Well, it's this trio right here. This is what really matters: RAM, CPU, and storage. These three components are what will make or break your day-to-day experience in ZBrush. Let's look at each one.
Okay, first up and most important, system RAM. And I absolutely love this analogy. Think of your RAM as your digital workbench. If you only have a little bit of RAM, it's like trying to work on a tiny, cluttered little desk. You can't handle big projects and stuff is always falling off, which makes your computer slow down. But when you have a lot of RAM, it's like having a gigantic, empty workbench where you can lay out the most complex sculpture imaginable without a single problem.
So what does that look like in real numbers? Well, 16 gigabytes will get you in the door. It's totally fine for learning, for doing some smaller projects, but, and I'm telling you this from experience, you're going to hit that wall hard the moment you start really pushing the detail.
Ah, now we're talking. 32 gigabytes. This is the sweet spot. This is the professional comfort zone. With 32 gigs, you can tackle almost any character, any prop, any detailed asset without constantly checking your memory usage. For any serious artist, this should be your baseline.
And then there's this, 64 gigabytes or more. This is just total freedom. This is for the pros working on Hollywood-level assets, insanely detailed figures for 3D printing, or just massive scenes where you don't want to think about limits. At this point, the hardware just gets out of your way and lets you create.
Okay, let's really hammer this CPU versus GPU point home. The absolute best way to think about it is this. Your CPU is the engine doing all the hard work of sculpting. The GPU is just the window you're looking through to see it. A faster engine makes the car go faster. A bigger window doesn't. A strong CPU gives you that snappy brush response. A decent GPU just makes sure rotating your model is smooth.
And finally, let's talk about the unsung hero of any good ZBrush build, your storage drive, specifically a fast NVMe SSD. This thing is the silent performance booster. ZBrush is constantly writing little temp files in the background, and a slow drive is what causes those annoying stutters and, of course, those painfully long save times. Seriously, upgrading from an old hard drive to a modern NVMe SSD will often feel like a bigger performance leap than a new CPU. It's that dramatic.
Okay, enough theory. Let's make this practical. How do you take all this knowledge and actually build or buy the right machine for you? Let's break it down into some simple, clear recommendations.
So this chart pretty much lays it all out. Just find where you fit in.
If you're just learning, that minimum column will work. But you should really be aiming for that recommended column. That's the sweet spot for almost everyone. 32 gigs of RAM, a good modern i7 or Ryzen 7, and a solid 1 terabyte NVMe drive. And for you folks in a studio pushing massive projects, that professional column is your goal. Look at that RAM recommendation. That says it all.
You know what? Let's make it even easier. We've boiled all of this down into one final, super simple checklist. Think of this as your cheat sheet. Take it with you when you're shopping for a new machine or planning your next upgrade.
All right, here we go. Your 5 steps to ZBrush heaven. Step 1, a modern 64-bit operating system. That's a given. Step 2, and I'll say it again, prioritize getting at least 32 gigs of RAM. It's the most important thing. Step 3, get a fast NVMe SSD. Don't skimp here. Step 4, pick a CPU with great single-core speed. And Step 5, please don't forget this one, get a good pen tablet. Your physical tools matter just as much as your digital ones.
And really, this quote from the source material just sums it all up perfectly. ZBrush isn't about brute force. It's not about having the most expensive parts. It's about balance. It rewards you for being smart, for understanding how it works, and for putting your money where it will actually make a difference.
So I'll just leave you with this one last thought. When you're looking at your next computer, ask yourself, is this machine built for creativity or is it built for compromise? Because when you build it smart, when you focus on that performance trio of RAM, CPU, and storage, you're building a machine that just melts into the background and lets you do what you do best, create.